This is the video lesson for 2.02, Historical Context and Human Rights. And just a reminder that you are reading a novel, and before you submit your final part of this module, you will need to have finished the second part of that. The objectives for this module are identify ways in which historical context influences literature, understand the concept of human rights and how they apply today, and apply the understanding of human rights to identify how an author takes a stand on a topic. And there is, again, a little video here. It's not very long, but it's by the author Bat Humphreys, and he wrote a book called Deadweight, and it takes place in Charleston, South Carolina. It's fiction, but it's based on a true story of a young man who was charged with a crime he did not commit. So it's very interesting. So just take a few minutes, read this, and watch this video, and then go to the next page. Okay, this page is really quick and easy. It says, before we move on in this lesson, let's be sure you understand some key terms: historical context, time and place, obstacles, and cause and effect. So the first one is historical context, and it says historical context refers to the time and place in which a story occurs. So if your story takes place in, like, let's say, Florida, like Their Eyes Are Watching God, for example, Florida in the early 1900s, you can't have like spaceships there because that's not part of the historical context. It has to be relevant to the time period in which the story was written, unless it's science fiction and that somehow makes sense. But none of our books are that way. None of them are science fiction. But so you have to, an author, if they're writing some kind of historical fiction, they need to stay within the reality of that. And also the author from that time period, for example, Their Eyes Are Watching God, was actually written during that time in that place, and so that historical context becomes very relevant to the story, because it is an important part of what takes place, is the time and the place where it is. So the next thing is time and place. Think of your favorite movie. If you were to change the time to be 100 years in the past, or 200 years in the past, or 200 years in the future, what might change about the story? If you were to move the location 2,000 miles away, what else might change? Think of this class. If you were taking it 30 years ago, what might be different? A lot of it. If you were taking it in another country, what else might be different? And then, so you need to read also obstacles, and you need to read cause and effect. And once you've read all 4 of those, then you'll go on to the next page. Okay, so here are some things that you need to think about as you're reading the novel that you chose. And remember, you have to have picked one of those 5 books, and you should already be reading that. Here are some different things you need to think about, and you'll click on them, and it will give you some good questions to think about as you go. This is going to be important as you move through the story, so don't skip this step. Click on all of those boxes, and also take a look here at these elements. Some of this is probably going to be review for you, but you'll need to hover over them and make sure that you understand each of them. And then you'll go on to the next page. Okay, this is kind of a repeat page here. First thing it has, by the end of the lesson, you should have finished. And so for Ender's Game, you're supposed to be through chapter 6 by the end of this lesson. And then for Their Eyes Are Watching God, it's chapter 8. Hiroshima, it's chapter 2. Of Mice and Men is chapter 2. And Enrique's Journey is chapter 2. So you'll pick whichever book you are reading and do that. And then your graphic organizer needs to be filled out again. And for this lesson, it is a quiz as well as turning in the graphic organizer. So you're going to read the assigned chapter or chapters of your novel, complete the graphic organizer for this chapter. Remember, it's going to be different than the last one you turned in. This is for these chapters now. And then you will take the historical context and human rights quiz. And if you have any trouble with that, please come and see me during class, and we can take a look at that together after you have already tried it once. And that's that. So come and see me if you have questions. We can work through some of this stuff together if there's any kind of problem. And that's it. So thanks so much.